Um, I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd, and I've been thinking. Well, I also like looking up sci-fi documentaries, which got me thinking about a sci-fi concept that when you examine other aspects of, well, how the universe works, makes me wonder how practical it would be. And what I'm talking about in this case is time travel. Now, if you're traveling through time but not space, then everything else, well, let's face it, the universe moves. So it just makes me wonder, could we be wrong about how we perceive the universe? Or are we wrong about how we portray time travel? Because now that I actually think about it, it doesn't make sense that you would wind up exactly where you're at. Because if that were to actually happen, you would be in space. Not due to the matter of fact that you're moving, but everything else is. Take, for instance, you go back 1 hour. Well, just given the spin of the Earth, you should be an hour away from where you were at relative to the Earth's movement. And then, if you take into it the matter of fact that the Earth goes around the Sun, then you would also wind up that would essentially affect a three-dimensional vector or a three-dimensional path. The Earth would have moved into 3 dimensions. So it seems to me you'd wind up like up in the atmosphere or in the Earth itself. But that's not the only factor. The sun rotates around the galaxy. With that being the case, there's actually a good chance that you might actually wind up in space, which gets even more exacerbated when you realize that the entire galaxy is actually moving as well. So going forwards or backwards in time just 1 hour wouldn't we wouldn't wind up on Earth. We'd wind up in space. That's just if we travel backwards through time or forwards in time. If we travel solely through time and not space, we'd wind up in the vacuum of space. Just 1 hour. I don't know. This is just my thoughts. I'm just kind of curious if we do take that into effect. Is time travel, well, even if time travel is possible, is it practical? Would we actually be able to do anything with it? I don't know if we really be able to look backwards in time. The truth is, we might not be able to. Even if we can, even if we were able to travel through time, we wouldn't wind up where we were. Well, we would, but where we were isn't where it was, or where it will be. So, with that taking into effect, I think it's safe to say that most of the stories you hear about time travel, there's actually a good chance that they're not practical. They're not. They're just not feasible. Because if someone were to just travel through time, well, that would mean that they'd also have to travel through space because objects in space move. So I do wonder if, in fact, time travel is practical, even if possible. And given that fact, I'm not sure if. Well, I'm just a layman who's just taking this to effect, but I'm not sure if the stories we've heard about time travel are even possible. It might be safe to say that that concept right there, the fact that the everything in the universe moves, might actually debunk time travel. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't necessarily debunk the possibility of time travel, but the stories you've heard about them may not be possible. Especially since you don't hear about any of these time travelers using spaceships, which it seems like you'd have to do. Otherwise, you'd wind up. Well, you'd wind up vacuum preserved, or in the earth, or you might fall, or who knows, you might wind up in the sun, or some other star. Who knows? The point is, I don't think that time travel would be practical, even if it's possible, simply because of the matter of fact that everything moves. And that means all the stories you've heard online, all those clickbaity videos, are kind of debunked just by the fact that everything moves. But I could be wrong. As Bionic Dan says, see you later, fellow space travelers.